Hello and welcome to the Ibstock Future Talks podcast with Trudi Sully. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning.
Would you care to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, good morning. I'm Trudi Sully. I'm Director for Industrialised Construction at Mott MacDonald.
Excellent. BSc Zoology.
Yes.
How did you get from zoology into construction?
That's an obvious choice. Basically, I decided I wanted to be a zoologist when I saw David Attenborough in Life on Earth. And I decided I wanted to be a zoologist, and I did not waver from that track until post-university, when I realised that jobs working with David Attenborough were quite difficult to get. So I thought, right, I'm not going to be able to do this. I need to find a different trajectory.
Mhm.
And I accidentally stumbled into the health and safety executive as a completely different direction. Worked there for 14 years, but I wanted to move to the other side. So I moved into innovation. I worked for Innovate UK, and we started talking about construction and the need for innovation in construction. I jumped the fence again, moved into an environment that was able to facilitate that, and hence I arrived. But yeah, so still love animals. You will still see me following them around everywhere, but it's a hobby.
And construction can be a bit of a jungle
It
sometimes.
can be a jungle. I have quite a good understanding of animal behaviour, which also translates quite well.
Definitely helps, I imagine. So no particular history in construction, but
No.
a journey that's been long and varied into it.
Yeah.
What's your state of the nation? You've now been in construction for a number of years. Where do you think we are today?
So I've been working in the industry for about 9-ish years now, I suppose. And because I started looking at innovation and transformation, that's been my real focus. And it was quite interesting when I started talking to construction companies about change, about transformation. And there was, and still is, some places, huge resistance until there's not. And then it's almost like, okay, we want it now.
But what are those enablers? Because government's tried. What are those enablers that make that sudden change happen?
So I think it's the investment in innovation helps, but it's only an element of it to help with de-risking.
Mm-hmm.
So to take it away from the front line, to make it more accessible. But the real enablers are about driving from the top, the willingness, the recognition of the challenges, and the willingness to also recognise that transformation might mean really significant change. And I think enabling it needs to be able to be driven from the top, but you have to bring in your workforce as well.
And government has a role in that. How do you think government can enable? What are the good news things that government can do to make this happen?
It's been a really tough few years, hasn't it? And it's still really tough because the geopolitical context is just throwing curveballs left, right, and centre. But we do have so much in terms of enablement. So we have the spending review last year, the real clarity that government departments needed for the funding that they're going to get over a relatively decent period of time to be able to deliver the infrastructure that we need. We have the pipeline, which has been published and is now in a digital tool, which is much better. It needs more. It's evolving, but it is a mechanism that will help give clarity. So the supply side has got the recognition. There is the funding there. There is the pipeline there. There are programs we know we need to deliver. We're still often in a bit of a chicken and egg situation between that being spoken about, it actually coming into a mechanism for us to drive forward with delivery, and the confidence in the industry to be able to invest in looking at how we can do that more effectively.
So industrialised construction, Director of Industrialised Construction at Mott MacDonald. What is industrialised construction?
So terminology is
a problem for the industry.
It's a huge problem, and it's actually been a real bugbear for years for me, because it's still an area in itself that's evolving. The reason that industrialised construction is sort of 2025, 2026 terminology choice, I think, is because it's bringing a broader spectrum of people into a more confident place around transformation. MMC, still used very, very widely and globally, modern methods of construction. One, MMC is just easy to say.
Yeah.
And easier than industrialized construction.
Everyone loves a TLA.
Exactly. But I think there's also MMC got a bit of a reputation in some ways that it was just about factories and just about manufacturing, and most people assume it's just about 3D volumetric. Whereas actually within the framework that was put together and that is sort of still considered the backbone of options, it's actually really diverse. But we still had a lot of resistance from what I suppose we term as traditional construction environments. And also I think because of the current political economic times that we live in, we needed to be able to be a little bit more flexible. So industrialized construction, the Construction Leadership Council had a working group on it last year that put together a working narrative and definition. And that's basically about adopting manufacturing and assembly approaches and processes that focus on where you can get the best value out of standardization and repetition.
And how does that vary to DFMA, which is another phrase, design for
Yes,
manufacturing?
design for manufacturing and assembly. So I guess, again, DFMA is used and misused. If you're a bit more of a purist, and where it is used in other industries, DFMA is quite a set methodology around principles of design to facilitate ease of manufacture and efficiency in assembly. Industrialized construction, again, goes that bit further. It looks more at the system level. It identifies certain elements and processes that, yes, you would apply DFMA, but it also might be sort of further back in the process in terms of identification about impact and ease assessments, about using tools such as failure mode and effect analysis. And so there's a lot of different elements in it. And I think, as much as anything, I don't really mind what term people use, as long as you're on the same page as the people you're speaking to, and that you are looking at the system and the opportunity, where can you really create the impact?
What are the barriers? Why are people not engaging?
Construction has been doing what it does for hundreds of years, and it's comfortable, and we know that it mostly works. People are generally uncomfortable with change unless you really bring them on the journey with you. And I don't think we've been very good in construction at doing that, at really creating the environment to make people comfortable with change. When I saw you joined Ibstock, I was really shocked. Because I was just thinking bricks.
Yes.
But then actually looking at what you're doing here and the diversification and the innovation and the engagement is actually what we need, more organisations from traditional environments actually driving forward and doing.
I mean, it's very pleasant working for a business that actually makes money.
Yeah.
Because we have the money.
Let's be honest, yes. In construction, making money.
Ibstock has the money to invest in new factories. In the last 2 years, we've spent over £100 million in investing in new factories and new production, new products that weren't there before. So decarbonisation, smarter, more innovative products that meet the challenges of customers. So it's really important that you make the money to invest in the new products and deliver that. So that's something we're really focused on. We're really excited about.
And I think it's exactly that. I see, companies in traditional environments that actually recognise just an opportunity not to stop what they do well, but actually just to explore slightly different angles. And it doesn't have to be, so often people think when you talk about innovation that you suddenly have to change everything. And actually that is quite often definitely not the way to go. You sort of identify where something might just be able to be a bit improved, or can we possibly do this in a different way? Can we use less materials? Can we be more efficient? and engage with the workforce. And that's what we still don't see enough of, actually engaging with the people that are doing the job.
The disconnect between the person on site delivering the work and the person making the materials in the factory is unbelievable in our industry. We are so far removed from those people. It's a real challenge to understand what those challenges are. So part of my being here in this business is understanding and being able to translate that disconnect and ask the question to make the products that's required. So it is a different mindset, and we've got to get more of that into the industry.
Yeah, and I think that's it's one thing I'm going to say and didn't actually, is one of the challenges that I have had personally in the industry is actually about the industry, not just construction, other industries too, appreciating that different people bring different perspectives and can actually enable things in a different way. And, you know, I work predominantly with engineers, and people assume I'm an engineer. And then when they find out I'm not, quite often they'll underestimate my ability to actually have any influence or impact, which is fine because I can prove that I can. But that lack of appreciation of different people with different skill sets actually enabling different ways of moving things forward is quite common, I think.
We do tribe slightly in our industry. Engineers tribe with engineers, quantity surveyors with quantity surveyors, and sometimes breaking that and making sure people are having the dialogue. And part of the purpose of doing some of these podcasts is trying to get people listening to what other people are doing and hearing what needs to be done and how they can make those linkages.
I just encourage people to ask why more often.
I have a slightly different thing. Ask, can I? Can I do it differently? Can I do it better? Not I can. That's slightly sometimes puts you in the wrong mindset. But if people can say, can I do this differently? Can I do it in a better way? Can I understand why we've been doing it this way? I think that's really important. I never ever stop my kids asking why. It's such a hugely important question. Infuriating one. But it is really, really important. We should always question why, and also ask ourselves, can I do something different? Can I do it better?
Yeah. And that sort of turning it around, isn't it? That's you as the converted, if you like. Whereas certainly when I worked at an innovation center, when clients would come in, they nearly always think they know what they want. And quite often it's an extreme. It's like, I want a robot to do that job. You know, it's a leap to the extreme. So sometimes just sitting down and so why do you want that? Well, because we need to be more productive. But okay, so what are your challenges now? Why is it a problem now? And working back, and that's so often we leap to conclusions or leap to solutions without actually exploring different trajectories to move things forward. And that's, I think, again, why different people asking people about things they know really, really well, and therefore they have blinkers about what it should be and how it should work.
Stepping away from the I can't mentality, really, really, really important for our industry as a whole, because I think if we start to explore and we start to understand the challenges we're actually facing, be it productivity, be it cost, whatever it is, if we understand what it is we're trying to address, there's many, many different solutions out there, many ways of doing it. And we just need to push ourselves into a slightly uncomfortable space.
Yeah. And this is why government as a client is so important, is that they have a level of scale of delivery in a particular asset type where they can really start to embed continuous improvement and build on iterations and start with aspects and then expand going forward. And we're seeing that in the prisons program. We're seeing it now in the new hospitals program. It's been a big factor in schools. And once they see proof of improvement, then they're more likely to drive forward with it.
No country for old methods.
Yes.
What's that about?
So it's a page on LinkedIn, and that's fundamentally all it is at the moment. I set it up just a few months ago with Katie Rudin, who works at Akerlof, because both of us love to tell people about the good news stories I guess one of the reasons MMC as a term is here in the UK at least fading out a bit is because of some of the bad news stories where things went wrong. And unfortunately, that sticks. What is often not seen is the amount of success there is and the amount of change and transformation that is happening. We know that there are some really great projects happening. We know there's some really innovative companies that are really driving things forward, and it's getting better and better. So we wanted just a forum where we do nothing but share positive stories, great case studies, and articulate that art of the possible in this environment with the hope that more people see more good news, have more confidence, and look at what they do themselves and drive it forward.
You mentioned earlier about people getting the confidence, people having the courage to do the right thing. Industrialization takes leadership, it takes investment. How do we attract that? How do we get more people putting their money where their mouth is?
Proof. And I think that, we've seen through all the time I've been working in innovation, we've developed processes and guides and done modeling of what can be achieved, but actually proof is in the pudding, to be very cliche about it. And I think we need that good news. That feed isn't just about telling nice stories that make you feel good. It's actually about demonstrating the possible, and then people starting to realize real benefits when we are seeing much better value buildings, much easier to run, much more affordable, much more efficient, much more sustainable. Then that really drives the interest and it drives the investment. And I think on the investment side, there's actually some interesting. So the Innovate UK run an innovation investor partnership, and they have a list of about 100 or so investors. That's across different industries, but companies that are specifically signed up to look for innovative SMEs to invest in and to support their growth. And there's people submitting into a competition right now in relation to construction as well. So I think that there is appetite out there. There is investment opportunities. And the more proof we can deliver, the more people actually shout about the great results they're getting, rather than just submitting it into an award, the better.
Well, what can companies like Mott MacDonald do to support that change and drive forward?
The really big organisations like Mott MacDonald, we're at a scale where we can take advantage of being involved in these big programs, testing out these methods, really working with clients to help them to understand what could be achieved, to pick really good opportunities to demonstrate it, and then drive that change forward. I think that the big organizations have that opportunity and those bigger scale programs to really act. But then we do have to be much better at, again, shouting about it, sharing about it, and make sure that the supply chain gets some access to those opportunities to see the benefits for themselves, to be able to, for that to filter down so that the results then come back up.
Housing, MMC, industrialization, it's been a challenge. What do you see the opportunities in that particular sector as being?
It's huge. I'm so constantly frustrated by housing.
Yes.
What gets me is houses are the simplest asset that we deliver. They're so standard in what's in them. Yeah, the configuration, absolutely, size, height, etc. But they all have the same elements all the time. And for MMC industrialization, that opportunity of repetition and very much scale where we are, it's ripe. It's absolutely key. I think, it has been a market and environment that is very disconnected. Early on in construction, I was meeting with one of the major house builders, and I was talking about something in construction, and they said, "I'm sorry, I have to stop you there." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, what?" He said, "We're not in construction." And I had to stop. I was thinking, who am I talking to? But that was kind of that detachment from the industry. And I think it's been a really difficult journey But I think that we are seeing really great results in adoption of MMC, industrialized construction, DFMA, offsite in housing. I think evidence is starting to come through, and necessity is greater than it has ever been.
And do you think initiatives like PAS 8700 help in terms of driving that?
Yeah, so PAS 8700, it's a new publicly available, free to download standard on you. It's nearly a year old, actually, and we're going to do something to sort of celebrate that. The reason for it was really to try and bring together all of these different strands and ideas and approaches around house building, new build, to try and give the current best practice in terms of utilization of these processes into a standard that people could pick up and learn and help to then reflect within their own businesses. So it wasn't about trying to constrain too much. It was actually just being able to get a sense of harmonization of the processes and the approaches. So in a constantly evolving environment, in another year's time, I expect we'll look at it and we'll go, well, actually, these companies are really coming to the fore. They're adopting these processes and they're proving this area. So what do we need to update to enable others to then follow on that journey?
When you look outside of construction, what excites you? What do you see out there? Do you think actually we can borrow some of that?
I mean, because of my journey into construction at the start, we were always looking at other industries. What can we take from them? And that's a really tough conversation. It still is.
Mm-hmm.
But other industries, especially, other manufacturing environments, have all gone through their own journeys to get to where they are, where their levels of automation, standardization, efficiency, because of their own serious times where they were really failing and struggling. And I think that's something we should embrace. It's not cookie cutter, it's not sort of cut and paste, because construction is a different environment. What we deliver is a very different scale and different demands. But there are processes which translate really well. And I think we need to keep doing that. And then, of course, the digital environment. I mean, AI scares the hell out of me. It really does. I'm sort of a bit, in some ways, a bit long in the tooth for it, and it also doesn't like my face. It never works. But there's these huge opportunities now to be able to use some of these tools to accelerate what we do, prove it, test it more rigorously, and accelerate again what we're doing. And I think it's been a really rapid rise, hasn't it? And I think there's caution needed, but opportunities are immense.
You mentioned manufacturing. How do we get contractors closer to manufacturers to leverage some of that learning and that experience to maximize the benefits that can be delivered?
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. I think that's part of, this resistance to change that we've experienced a lot. But actually, the alliancing contracts, which are asking the contractors to share and to embed the continuous, or requiring them to share and embed continuous improvement, is really important. And also within that program, and on the industrialization, they've set up working groups with the supply chain, with the suppliers, to test the designs, to really challenge what's been put forward, the buildability of it. And that engagement, well ahead of the norm, has been, it's been a bit contentious at times, but it's actually starting to really reap the benefits. And I think, again, a bit of a broken record, but proving the benefits of doing that will actually then drive contractors to work more effectively earlier on with supply chain, to get them involved rather than having to fix things, actually proactively react to them.
Thinking about leadership and what you've seen over your career and in the various places you've worked, in government, in private industry, what does good leadership look like to you?
I think it's it has to be quite flexible now. We are in sort of these quite challenging times, and I think that we need to be more open to innovation within this industry, and we need leaders which have a little bit more appetite for risk. And I know that risk in construction is a very difficult topic.
Yeah.
But there are, that there are well proven environments where this has reaped benefits, and I think we need to have. There is a recognition that we need to change. We need to address productivity. We need to do things differently. And we need the leaders that are going to be able to enable that. And I think that requires more diversification. And at bringing people through the ranks. When you look at the graduates coming into the industry, they're ready for this. They are already fully embedded in the digital world. They already understand these mechanisms and tools. And we need to be listening more to their perspectives and helping them to come through to involve themselves in the leadership as well.
Do you think there's a gender divide in what leadership looks like?
I think there's still a significant amount of stereotypes around women and around how we act and how we lead. Although I see quite a lot of women in leadership in construction, and we've spoken about Susanna Nichols and what she does and how she represents it. Katie Dowding at Skanska won CEO of the Year at Building Wars last year and gave such an impassioned speech about her journey to that role. We're getting better at recognising diversity, and gender brings different skills, and that there is actually proof that companies with a better balance of gender are more successful, and the more diverse you are overall, the more innovative companies are.
And do you think females face different challenges to become leaders in these organisations?
Yeah, I think it's tough. We see quite a lot of women coming into the industry, more so now with diversification of roles. It's becoming more interesting, but we lose way too many too quickly. And I think that's sort of, the environment still isn't enabling that. If you look on site, it's really difficult because it's still a very male dominated. We're still fighting for decent welfare on sites. Then we lose a lot of women as they go up through the ranks. And those that reach the top tend to be very resilient, very strong women. But I will say that, one of the biggest challenges, and something that I've personally experienced in my career, is menopause. Because it really is a significant impact on your life, your mentally, physically, emotionally. And something like 10% of women leave their job because of menopause in some capacity. Over a quarter consider quitting. And I think that although the conversations are better, I'm sat here talking to you about it now, but it's still within the workplace, it's still not spoken about or understood enough.
And is that, from my perspective, it's got to be because there's that massive imbalance between female leaders at that senior position. As you say, people are leaving. In other industries where you've got much more balance, there's more allies for those.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the challenge?
Yeah, I think so. And raising awareness and understanding is really important in general. But we also need to be able to have those conversations openly and be comfortable with it. Being able to be open about it and speak about it and have people that you can go to is really important. And we need to be able to create those environments to make people feel comfortable and to be able to carry on doing the brilliant work that they do and have the confidence to actually know that they are still really more than capable of doing it.
Final note. What excites you most today when you look at our industry, outside of our industry? What's exciting you?
I think, I've always worked in and around change, and that, I love it. I get really bored if everything stays too much the same, actually. And I think we are at a really fantastic time. Despite the challenges, there is so much going on in the industry now. We have huge demand. We have that pipeline we spoke about. We've got the opportunity and we know how to do it. Yes, the whole system does need to shift, but it is an incredibly exciting time. We are seeing phenomenal work happening. And I think we're beyond, we spoke about tipping point for so long. we're past that now. We're really into driving it forward and reaping the benefits and really tackling some of the big societal challenges we have with our built environment, because we can do so much more, so much better to have better built assets for everyone.
Trudy, thank you so much for your time. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Pleasure.